Super Mario RPG is one of my all-time favorite games, and in celebration of the remake that's just around the corner, I wanted to take a look back at not just the game, but the thing that really unlocked the game for me, the Nintendo Power Official Player's Guide for Super Mario RPG back in the 90s. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Now, this player's guide is cool for two reasons. One, obviously it's a player's guide, so it has all sorts of information about how to beat the difficult game that is Super Mario RPG. Like now I have the game memorized, so it's like I forget how hard this can be for newcomers, but in the days before easy access to the internet, like I still had dial-up at this time, player's guides were an essential resource for games like RPGs that required a little bit more knowledge and know-how than maybe your average Mario game. This is the official Nintendo Power one, which brings me to the second cool thing is that it shows off the artwork of the game. So, Super Mario RPG was a 3D pre-rendered game. So, what it did, they created 3D models and then they rendered them out into sprites for the actual Super Nintendo, because the Super Nintendo obviously was not a 3D capable system. And this was the thing that popularized by Donkey Kong Country. So for Super Mario RPG, Square and Nintendo teamed up to make just, one of the best Mario games and RPGs of all time. But what's cool about this player's guide is that all of the 3D models that they used in the game, which you only see at like a few pixels, are rendered in glorious 300 DPI detail. So a lot of the things that you see in the game that you barely get any detail on, you actually get to see the models they're based on in here. I really like the art style of the new Super Mario RPG that's coming out. I think it's going to look awesome. But there's something about 90s 3D models that just looks so cool. Like the way the really primitive lighting and reflections and all of that are just, I can't get enough of it. And even just on this cover, like we're seeing a lot of the character models that are on, the game itself, like some of the game artwork that you see on the sticker, just arranged in a different way. But if you look on the back, we start seeing some things that you really don't see outside of the game itself. Like this is what Bellum actually looked like, and these dragons and these different enemies, like the Land's End enemies. And it's cool seeing like the reflection on the dragon, and you just don't get that kind of detail in the game itself. Like as amazing as the game is, it's still an SD single, and these sprites are super teeny tiny. So let's hop into this player's guide and see what's in. So I bought this in the Walmart dollar bin, by the way, and when I bought this was in terrible shape at Walmart. So right off the bat, like Bowser's little like hill thing that we see in the game itself, like all of this detail is just like a blurry mess. Like you can see these little spades sticking out of the castle. It's super cool. And I love these like logos that they made in 3D for the different areas. So something that was much appreciated by young Dan, who was often perplexed by Final Fantasy games, was explaining like what the different, statuses are and how you, cure them and deal with them. And one of the things that's fun about Super Mario RPG is that there are timed attacks, and you press certain buttons at certain times to, get a more powerful attack. And it just goes a long way towards making, turn-based battles feel more exciting and more interactive and all that fun stuff. So here we get really good detailed artwork of each of our main characters. Geno is a character that the sprite is really hard to kind of make out what the heck certain things are. Like, I remember thinking that these things looked like a tongue when I first saw it. Oh man, look at these like 3D lighting effects and Mario staring down Smithy. So cool. Like I said, in the actual game, this is just like a blurry mess, but in this, you get to see the detail, which is awesome. I'm going to repeat this like 8,000 times, so I'm sorry if you get tired of me saying it. I love these like little like maps that, Nintendo would create, laid out in such like beautiful magazine format, like it's beautiful. And then like the different things, like this is just like, even these like little graphics are 3D elements. You can see like a shadow on the spiral. Grabbing screen grabs back in these days off of CRT TVs, not the easiest task, but They really don't hold up compared to the actual like pre-rendered 3D graphics. It's fun seeing like different versions of the gear. That's definitely not something you ever see in the game itself. Like when the characters get armor upgrades, like they all just look the same. Like weapons will look different in battle, but armor is like whatever. Here we get another beautiful look at Pond of Pipes, which is like the second level that we're going through. I would love to have seen the new game just use these original 3D models, but I think it would be a tall order to actually find those, and I bet they don't work very well in modern systems, so we'll take what we can get. I remember thinking the tadpoles in the game just looked like, you know, like a bottle, like a black bottle with a handle, and in this guide you can actually tell there's some detail. One of the aspects of this game that really feels like Final Fantasy is the monster design. Like the monsters, you know, we have our Goombas and all that you're fighting, but so many of the monsters are kind of horrific looking and look like they come straight out of a Final Fantasy game. Like they're super cool. Bowyer battle is awesome and very difficult, where he cancels out like different buttons and attacks that you can do. Very fun battle. This is another like maze thing that's super helpful to have a player's guide for. Yoster Isle is the Yoshi world in this game feels like nothing in Mario. Like Boshi and the like fight that Yoshi has and like the language they all use, and even the name Yoster Island, like this very much feels more Square than Nintendo. And then we got one of our favorite people right here. We got Booster, who is totally unhinged. Look at his teeth, like are such simple cylinders, and I love it. And like reflectiveness, the characters. Once again, the artwork of the outfits in this is one of the only times that like I got to like feel like the things that I was getting were, you know, different in any way. So it was kind of a fun, you know, use your imagination. And then when I talk about like Final Fantasy-esque bosses, like this thing, like that's very Square. I love just how abstract and strange these bosses look. It just, like, look at that. That thing is terrifying. That's not in any Mario game I know of. That thing is so scary. Booster Tower, just one of the all-time great levels. I cannot wait to see how that is recreated in the new game. I think this cake boss was quite possibly the hardest boss in the game. Like, the cake would constantly like weaken your party, and you had to like attack it a certain amount of times, but you have to also heal, and it's early enough in the game that you don't have like, you know, the lazy shell that just basically makes one of your characters invincible. Man, this battle was difficult and kind of, I don't know, something about it was always grossed me out. I think it's because Booster eats it. Then we move on to Johnny and Skeletons. Once again, here's 3D renders. Beautiful. You can see some of the texture on this thing, and then these houses that look like they're almost made out of paper. Jinx, this is another just, wow, what an iconic character. Monster Town. Monster Town kind of feels like, you know, an extension of the Link's Awakening Monster Town. A lot of the same concept, and there's our little Final Fantasy locked door. Oh, Dodo and Valentia. I feel like we may have a little bit of an update on that character model in the new game. That makes it slightly less inappropriate for children. I'm going to leave it at that. Man, wouldn't it have been cool if you actually get to see these armor upgrades? Like, I wonder if that was just some part of the game that was intended but just never really got around to it. We got another super abstract, strange enemy that looks super cool. Yeah, I mean, like, this is all you get of him in the game. But man, look at this cool 3D render of that. Smithy Factory. So now we're getting into the, you know, the final area of the game. So, I mean, if you don't want spoilers, I mean, you probably don't watch this video. But this was a really difficult part of the game, because you kind of had to play through it all at once to save. Like, you couldn't, like, save in the middle of it. And my Super Nintendo did not like being just left on for an extended period of time. So I really needed to have a few hours available to play through this part of the game. I bet this is controversial, but I don't know. I kind of followed the recommended dream team here where you had Mario, which you're required to have in your party, Princess Peach, which is like the only healing character other than Mallow. Throw the lazy shell on her, she's invincible even though it really destroys magic attack power and her healing power. And then Bowser's like the bruiser, so unfortunately Mallow and Geno, the most interesting characters in the game, like kind of, you don't need them at this point. At least that's how I played. I would love to hear how you played at this point in the game. And then yeah, we just have like an embarrassment of riches of just wild character designs from the Smithy gang that just fed from whatever artist imagination who made this game. It has nothing to do with Mario. And then Smithy himself, look at this nightmarish like head that he creates. I wish I had a 3D version of that, but there's no like Smithy models like in this thing. So yeah, so from here, one of the cool things about RPG Player's Guides is, you know, like Square ones were all like this too, was you had your like bestiary where you had all the different characters that you would fight and their names, like all their stats and everything. And if you're just a total nerd like me, a lot of these things you wouldn't even really like need to know, but it's just so cool being able to see like how many people there are to battle and what their stats are and what kind of special defenses they have. And this was also super helpful, like what the heck did some of these items do? But yeah, that's the official player's guide for Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. I really wanted to share this with people because I think it's such a cool look at the game that you don't get to see otherwise unless you have this physical guide. So what do you think? What was a player's guide that you had back in the day, or that you look back fondly on, or just enjoyed the artwork of, or really enhanced your experience of the game? Also, if you're enjoying these videos, like, subscribe, all that stuff, it really helps. I'm still a super small operation, so anything would be much appreciated. So have a good one, and shout out to the Walmart employee that put this in the discount bin back in the day. I appreciate you.